Well, welcome to our season 17 detention club for Doctor Who nerds. John, good to see you. You're a geek, aren't you? Doctor Who geek of season
That's
17.
always nice the way to start a voluntary stream with an insult. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'm either going to list you as a geek or of a certain vintage that likes season 17.
I was on a committee meeting this morning for 3 hours. I was called a lot worse. So nerd is getting better. Thank you.
And John, you're back for another deep dive, as we call it.
These are an absolute joy. I adore these shows. They are superb, and it's good to have John be on with John again. It's been too long, but are we going back to our old format, John? Are you being beautiful, John, again, and I'm being sort of?
What do you mean again? I've never stopped.
Yeah.
To be discussed throughout the show, everybody.
Yeah, because to let people know that was to stop me becoming old John as opposed to young John.
Yeah, he was.
Doesn't he look tired? No, so right. So
We decided I'll be John with an H.
John with the H. So everybody, good to see you. We'll be discussing season 17, facts, figures, our passions, why we love it, the bits we find embarrassing. It doesn't matter. We're talking as fans tonight. We're not going to be geeked out, really, so to speak. But welcome to you all. Please share your memories. Which ones? We all have different opinions on which story landed for us. Stephen O'Neill, for example, says, I love season 17, especially Destiny of the Daleks. It's going to be interesting when I talk to the panel about which ones they really rate, because sometimes I actually think my revisionism's coming in here, folks. I don't know about you two, Johns. I do actually feel like, having watched a few recently, some are going higher in the ratings, and actually maybe something like Destiny of the Daleks is sinking a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, John, off you go.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I love Destiny of the Daleks, and we will come on to it. But you know what? I really enjoyed watching Nightmare of Eden. I really did. And City of Death was always my number one. But Nightmare of Eden, when you watch it now, it's such a strong story. It really is. You know, it's great.
Yeah, I tend to agree with both of you about how we are revising as we go. This was, to put it in a nutshell, this was a season that as a younger person, I was always embarrassed by. And as I have matured, it, like a good wine, to quote City of Death, has also matured with me. And I rate this as one of Doctor Who's finest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where we all stand on this. It's been a pleasure to look back over season 17. I know it's been such fun. Now, I think this time, the first time on our deep dive, I'm actually going to give us a proper flavour, everybody. So, if you remember, just remember what it was like to be watching this. Were you the kid in this, sat in the corner on the floor? Here we go. A touch, a taste of season 17.
Go.
A new season and a new series of adventures.
Carlos? Carlos? Or the doctor dies. 6 seconds, Romana. No!
You will now see, my dear, how I deal with fools.
Not that switch!
Hold it!
He is holding a primed explosive.
System into scrap metal now. Back off!
Nobody's allowed to see Leonardo.
Really?
He'll want to question you.
Well, I'll want to question him, sir.
He'll be here instantly.
What are you doing here? Exactly the question I ought to be asking you.
Now I have you both. Now you're bound to be cooperative. Well, Doctor?
part of the new season on BBC One.
I mean, honestly, it was a delight to do. It was a delight to just imagine. I was a bit older than that kid there, but oh God, this season, I don't know about you two, Johns, but before we get going on Destiny, this season, at the time when I realized this was the first season I did the audio recordings, and every note of Dudley Simpson. And actually, I thought Dudley Simpson was really interesting this season. And I think that's why some of the cliffhangers are so memorable, because they have a real rhythm and poetry to them, actually. They really do. And every little touch he does, oh, I love it. It's melodramatic. Maybe it's camp. I couldn't give a damn. I love the vibe of this season.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. It's all of those things you just said, and probably all the better for it. It's almost as if Doctor Who knew what was going out before. I love season 18, but it's almost as if Doctor Who knew during the production of season 17 that season 18 was on its way, and we were having one big last jamboree of a season where all the humour and all the campness and everything else that we'd become associated with the Williams era of Doctor Who was having one last gasp at it. So yeah, I agree with wholeheartedly with that. And also the Dudley Simpson point. This perhaps is Dudley Simpson's finest season.
Yeah, I don't. You wonder whether there was some directorial note or something, because he did adapt this season. I mean, for example, when that City of Death Part 2, where there's a bit of dialogue. Can you imagine when they filmed that? There were gaps in between, long gaps, which would have made it look less impressive. But Dudley Simpson does a dance with the music between the dialogue. It's fab.
Mm-hmm.
Superb. I will say about Destiny of the Daleks, we're going to come on to it. Those extras that are being exterminated, they've clearly watched an episode of Shooty Gatwa, haven't they? At that point, and they've just given up all hope.
How are the knees? There'll be no good in the quarry. Doctor Who fan here says, season 17 is my personal favourite season. City of Death will always be my favourite story of the season and the show as a whole. I think a lot of us know we're going to say City of Death, but it's the other ones that go up and down like a yo-yo. It's the first story I used to introduce my friend to Doctor Who. Well, I'll come to City of Death, obviously, second. He also says, in fact, after watching a few more episodes, my friend says City of Death was his favourite too. And just before we move on, Graham here, who said, I've got them live, I've got Sensory Alive. I remember going to the Blackpool exhibition after episode 2 of Destiny. We had friends up north, all right, there's some of us, and it was my first visit to Blackpool. I absolutely loved it, and it's a great time. As you know, recently I did a stream with John next to me, and we were talking about
John.
Yeah,
timeless.
Doctor Who Weekly and Monthly we were talking about. And actually Doctor Who Weekly started around season 17. So there's a lovely season 17 and the Doctor Who Weekly kind of go hand in hand, don't they, really?
I think it started at some point during City of Death. I might be wrong, because I know I bought it that Thursday. It came out on a Thursday. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm that old.
Well, on the flip side of it, I was going to say to you, I'm a bit later along than both you. Because yeah, being born in '79, I mean, I watched them. You know, it was VHSs and UK Gold. You know, and I never forget for my birthday getting City of Death for the first time, and out of all of the Doctor Who stories, I would say that one just races through more than any other, and it's just a joy. I wore that tape out.
You see, I think Creature from the Pit would have been your one, because if you were born in '79, is it possible that when you were born, Lady Adrasta was shouting "No, no, no" as your mum was shouting "No, no, no"?
No. It was Holmes of Nimon. As I was coming out, someone shouted, "Weakling scum!"
We just hope that Erato's appendage had nothing to do with anything.
So here we go. Let's start with Destiny of the Daleks. There's your details if you so wish. The ratings. I tell you what, when I was compiling the ratings for this season, I thought, whoa, my God. you are so now acclimatized to really bad numbers that to see this season, wow. So 13 million ends with 14.4 million. It booked the Dalek trend because, as you know, with Dalek stories, it tends to start well with a headline and then bye bye. But no, well sustained. It's a Terry Nation. It had a Terry Nation usual stuff. But yeah,
You do know the codicil to that rating story, Brendan. You do know that.
go on.
Well, there was a strike at ITV for 8 weeks during the introductory stories of season 17. So that's why you get bigger viewing figures for the latter half of Destiny of the Daleks and for all of City of Death. In fact, City of Death, I think, peaks at 14 point something. You can tell me, would you tell me that when we get to it? But that turned out to be Doctor Who's highest viewing figure. But that's because the other side, and back in the days, ladies and gentlemen, yes, we're that old, there were only 3 channels, BBC One, BBC Two, and ITV. And one of those channels was on strike, and the other one, BBC Two, was showing pro-celebrity knitting. So nobody was watching that. I remember we piled in and watched Doctor Who. So that counted for those viewing figures. And when ITV went back to work again, for the episode 1 of City of Death, they reverted to more normal figures, which were still an exceptionally healthy 10 million or so.
I think you're being a bit dishonest to celebrity knitting, John, because now RTD's latest era would have struggled to compete with it.
Not only struggled to compete, I would have watched it over what we just had.
Yeah. Well, here we go. So, and of course, September 79, I just started as a first year senior. So basically, new big school, all that excitement. This season, the Daleks back after 4 years. Oh my God, I was so primary school when that was on. And yeah, here we go. So we'll rattle through these, but your thoughts on Destiny of the Daleks? I watched it again, obviously, just very, very recently. And obviously, this was the one I was looking forward to because of the title and the long wait. But I have to say, when I look back, there's the regeneration scene that I keep thinking, oh, you have feeding the trolls this.
Yeah.
And actually, it doesn't help, does it, that the female of the species of the Time Lord says, oh, I'll try this, I'll try that. I know Tom Baker's Fourth did a bit of that with costumes, but for her to kind of try on different kind of faces, and actually, wasn't it a bad look that actually the man was saying too short, they almost should bloody cut that.
You're terrified of saying things now because you're having to look at it with a 2025 lens. Nobody thought that sort of thing at all. If we criticised this, and we did at the time, it was for the cavalier way it treated regeneration. But in essence, all Douglas Adams and Graham Williams were doing was playing with the format and the way that the Doctors and the Time Lords had done with the Troughton regeneration, in that he was given a choice of what he wanted to look like. So it was us, essentially, as fans, who were being a bit pernickety and up ourselves to sort of criticise this season. There's absolutely nothing wrong in them making the assumption that Time Lords, because they can pick and choose their body 13 times, wouldn't be able to tailor it like a suit. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. And it said, in the canon of Doctor Who, that's virtually what happens in the War Games. So, and it makes the Doctor different in that he's the crash bang wallop hit and miss guy that just has to take what fate gives him. I actually thought it lends to the whole mythos of the Doctor.
Yeah. I mean, it helped to explain why Princess Astro is in the TARDIS, but as the only straight panelist we've got here, John, you can represent. Yeah. John, which one of these 3 did you want to take home?
Oh, it's a tough choice. It's got to be the little one in blue, surely, isn't it?
She'd eat less than going to dinner anyway. So.
The Smurf.
John fancies a Smurf.
People have said worse to me over the years, mate. Trust me.
Mind you, their costumes. God knows where they got the middle one from. Some.
I don't know where they got her, but I tell you what, she's going to have somebody's eye out.
Oh, yeah, I tell you what.
Just off Brighton Beach or something. They've just dragged her off of the beach.
She'd have been better than Jodie Whittaker. You wouldn't have messed with her, would you?
Certainly not. I tell you what, she's got it all in front of her.
Yeah. Just Dalek defences, that is. The rays wouldn't get through that, would it?
there's your Smurf. Isn't she dressed a bit like the robots of death? You know,
That's
one of the
that's the Zilda costume, the Zilda headdress.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember reading somewhere, because you saying I'm a geek, I'm a nerd, and the director was the director told me that, said in an article that she was very angry because when she makes her one and only appearance in Doctor Who, there's a shadow on her face. And she had a bit of a hissy fit, the actress.
I'm off.
That's what she blew elsewhere.
I mean, what you were saying a couple of minutes ago, John, when I was watching this back this week, Destiny of the Daleks, I do recall there was something said. I can't remember where it was. Maybe you two can fill me in, but I want to say Doctor Who magazine years ago, but they were talking about the fact that the Romana and the Doctor, Romana and the Master and other Time Lords are more able to choose their regeneration because it was something like it was because they'd spent longer on Gallifrey or in the Academy or something like that, whereas the Doctor couldn't. He'd gone early and obviously it was more random for him.
Yeah, and everything about the Doctor is random, hash bash and crash bang all of it. I actually think that in terms of the canonicity of Doctor, this makes perfect sense. Time Lords, why wouldn't they be able to tailor the bodies? In fact, I think Romana makes a line, I can take it in a bit at the arms. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I'd say the character of the Doctor, that he's the one that just has to take what lands on him. And my God, in his 15th incarnation, did he not have to take what fate gave him? Bless us all.
Well, I mean, I do want to emphasize that I love this episodic approach to Doctor Who, and this season really got it so well. And you can see we've got great humor tonight, and we're going to have a good laugh about this and get our passion across. But do you all remember Sylvester McCoy's literal cliffhanger? Well, the Who Pets and Me and Garbage Who. If you like this, everybody, Garbage Who, give him a subscription. So here we go. He's a cliffhanger that didn't quite work. I mean, well done, Garbage.
Fantastic. Well done.
Superb. And amazingly, so much better than Tales of the TARDIS, everybody.
Absolutely. And it's lovely to see Sylvester McCoy get his fancy tickled.
And that was Garbage Who's idea. I mentioned I wanted that cliffhanger into AI.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that didn't trigger a regeneration, having that tickled. To be honest with you.
Tri-generation.
That's when his knees had to regenerate after that fall. So Graham here, who's loving being live with us, loved that Dalek spaceship. I must admit, I was always used to the Dalek. Of course, we were tricked. We thought this was the Daleks landing. But the other thing was, because normally they'd fly a kettle, don't they, or something, in the planet of the Daleks. But the burrowing, as you say, Graham, great effect. Loved all that.
Again, Doctor Who, and it's best because, we can't have it as like Shadow later on has an invisible spaceship, and in Doctor Who we can't afford a big bill, so we just have it bury itself. So we only have to show a little bit. That's how Doctor Who makes a virtue of its very small budget. Excellent.
Superb stuff.
Well, it's either you fancy a Smurf or Suzanne Danielle. Peter Harrington went for Suzanne Danielle. Obviously, John has issues and he went for a Smurf. There's the issue.
Mind you, for those of us, Peter Straker as Commander Charles scrubbed up quite nicely in a Mavellan outfit too. At the time, I was a burgeoning young gay man at that, or young teenager at that time, and it helped, shall we say?
There was also a very, very attractive female Mavellan as well that I'm sure we might discuss throughout the episode.
Danielle.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was very famous at the time for being sort of in everything, but not actually doing anything. She was just one of those people, And Doctor Who.
She was dating Patrick Moore from Target.
Yeah, but she didn't actually do much. And then she ended up in what turned out to be at the time the very last Carry On movie and worst, called Carry On Emmanuel, where she played the titular, and the emphasis on it, titular Emmanuel in that thing. But she was a very famous sort of tabloid star. And she can't act because she went on a few years later to play Princess Diana opposite Mike Yarwood doing Prince Charles, and she made a good living out of that. She's a very attractive woman.
Yeah.
Didn't she upset Lala Ward at one point though? Because during this she was sort of touting that she might be a future companion.
Her agent was doing that quite right. It wasn't the first time that had happened, but her agent was touting her as Doctor Who's new girl, and from that new companion.
Right.
Lala wasn't happy. I don't think Lala was very much.
Let's ask you about this then. I mean, we've got the Magellan ship here, and great idea. Right, okay, Terry Nation, he gets it in the neck a lot, doesn't he? But do you think this was? We had the mining, we had countdowns, we had a lot of things that he does like to do. But I actually thought I loved the stalemate idea. I actually loved the way that it was presented to us. Because although I was taping it on audio and I was thinking, why are they banning the decks and boom, 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 and and that seemed to go on for a while on audio. I have to say it's a really good analogy for the kids learning about stalemate and impasse. Loved it.
Yep.
So I think for me as well, it's like you talk a lot now about science fiction these days, and you talk about the development of AI and stuff like that, but they were talking about things like this in, this classic science fiction stuff. And it's really well done. And I love all of that, the only downside I would say about this story, and I'm sure it's the same with you two, but the one thing I was always like, they treated the Daleks more as machines than creatures in this story.
Yeah, I know it's Roy Skelton, but he does sound more like Bungle in this one, or Zippy.
No, but John's right, Brendan. Sorry to interrupt. John's right. There's actually a line, presumably scripted by Termination, when he talks. Of course, the Daleks themselves used to be humanoid, and the Doctor talks about two robots at war with each other, two super computers, and then they make reference because the Doctor finds a slimy ball thing and says it's a Khaled mutant. So Terry Nation had forgotten perhaps. Or perhaps he was just making an assumption that the Daleks had evolved into complete machine creatures.
One thing I was going to say that I think is a bit of a letdown with Destiny of the Daleks is the fact that I was looking forward to this, and then we run Skaro, and when you realise in that episode 2 that they're drilling for finding Davros, it was like the sets. I'd wondered whether there's a copyright or something. Couldn't the set designer have copied that beautiful metallic Genesis set? Those corridors, etc. This looks, they're through bits of, it just looked like bits of bric-a-brac. It looked as though it was one of those cheap daytime shows that's on BBC One a lot now, where you say, hey, don't put that in a skip. It just to it. But that was my one disappointment. I just thought, they could have really made it just so like Genesis.
Yeah, they absolutely could have done, and I think the attempt was, if you read some of the production notes on this, being a nerd and a geek, I do, they tried to reflect that in the set design to hark back to Destiny unsuccessfully. I agree with you, unsuccessfully, but I think there's an attempt to hark back to that, but I think the budget got the better of it. The thing that's grown on me more so over the years is, and I don't know if you're going to get to this, is Davros himself. I was at the time quite disappointed in Davros. There was no spoilers then. I had no idea Davros was coming back. So the end of episode 2 was an absolute banger of a cliffhanger for me. But I remember at the time being slightly disappointed. We didn't even have the Genesis of the Daleks audio or LP at that point. But I remember Davros being very powerful and not remembering the way he came across. Now, as it turns out, years on, I'm quite forgiving of David Goodison's more nuanced performance rather than being a ranter or a raver as Daleks could have been. Davros was at times. But at the time, I remember being disappointed. And even then, finding, and again, it's all the time, I understand that Doctor Who's budget was tight. I remember finding the Davros mask a little bit dodgy.
Yeah. I'd agree with you on that. I just felt that it was. I remember watching it for the first time, and I thought, oh, it's great seeing Davros back. But I did think it felt for me definitely a downgrade from Genesis, and I thought, well, maybe I'm being too harsh, and I'm still harsh these days because how do you follow Genesis of the Daleks is a very interesting sort of point, but I. I think also I was going to ask you guys what you think about this, but I from watching this, how many times I have, I kind of think I would have liked this story with Davros returning a bit later on. Maybe you had a few more Dalek stories before they reintroduced Davros. I just think straight after the next one, straight after Genesis.
I think
looking back,
I think it was a precondition of Terry Nation. The Terry Nation
okay,
said he would allow, first of all, the use of the Daleks in Doctor Who, and there's a whole story about this all happening by accident because they had heard in the Doctor Who office that Terry Nation, who was starting Blake 7 at this point, was thinking about bringing the Daleks to Blake 7. Graham was heard about this, said, no, Daleks Doctor Who, let's have them back. But a precondition of Terry Nation, keep saying Terry Wogan, forgive me, Nation allowing this was, first of all, Davros was in it. And the second, well, first of all, he got to write it. And second of all, Davros was in it.
Well, I mean, maybe, yes, he was a mellowed Davros. The thing was, Davros, this was the start, really, of the Davros soap opera in Doctor Who, where we didn't realise, but Davros was going to keep returning and taking over the plot, really, from the Daleks, this is the beginning of really diminishing them, because at the end of Genesis, you know, the Dalek aims their eye stalk at the camera and says, "Hey, we're back. We're going to be back," and yet on their own bat, they were looking for him. But then from this moment on, even when they froze him at the end, I love that. Bye-bye, Davros. I love that when they froze him like some kind of Captain Birdseye. I don't know.
Even that itself is going to freeze you for the sequel or for the next time. They're obviously, they're not destroying him. I think that by that point, Terry Nation and the production team have realised this is going to be a recurring character, you know, so hence he gets frozen.
What was your John Yulden, what was your favourite bit of it? For me, in a way, apart from him waking up with the cobwebs and Mr. Sheen out, you know, pledge. The other thing was, I love that moment, seek, locate, exterminate, as they're going down the corridor. I don't know, something, and then that bit, obey, 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 and they went on forever. I don't know, I like a bit of that.
Yeah, I think for me, it's going down the corridor is a good one. I have to say, one of my favorite moments in the story, though, is where the humans and the alien races attack the Magellan ship, and I just love Tom with the dog whistle, and they're coming towards him, and he's doing, his facial expressions are superb, where he's at the computer, you know what I'm on about, and it's almost like, you know, he's got a lollipop in his mouth at some point, and he's like, does that kind of thing, you know, and it falls down, he takes it out, takes the power pack out. I love that. It's just classic Tom Baker for Doctor Who. It's so good.
And you know, RTD likes to look for a spin-off. This is the spin-off, the Crankies. Look at them. I mean, just look. He looks like he's a failed extra from Planet of Evil, doesn't he? I mean, look at that.
I tell you what, he looks as though he's had a drink or two. That face tells a drinky story.
Is that Susan Boyle? Is it Susan Boyle?
Yeah.
Well, on the left or the right?
He's like, blimey, yeah, that was 9 pints.
So yeah, that was not my favourite bit in Destiny. John, what was your favourite bit in Destiny, if you had to pin one down?
Oh, the cliffhanger, the Davros cliffhanger, it's fabulously done. And you're right, between the end of episode 2 and the beginning of episode 3, Davros obviously whips out the Mr. Sheen because he's lost all the cobwebs, and he comes back to life. But again, nerdy time. Apparently, there was a plan for a piece of Khalid City to fall on Davros, which would bring about his resurrection, because it all seems a bit convenient. But again, time, pressure, studio, all the rest of it didn't happen. But I still love the setup that we're not told, nobody announces,
Yeah.
Going to the Doctor, and then we first know the minute we see him, and then with the benefit of DVDs, then we can go back and look. But all the clues are laid there to let us know why the Daleks have returned to Skaro, and that was a big thing, if you think, to be back on Skaro again, because apart from Genesis, we went back to the beginning of the Daleks. Most Doctor Who stories featuring the Daleks hadn't featured Skaro, so it was great.
Well, we've got Graham here saying the suicide Daleks in episode 4 were memorable with those bombs attached to the sides. Yeah, that was different. You've got Stephen O'Neill, the last Dalek story that Terry Nation wrote, remember? So Darko says it was the Romana interrogation. Yeah, in part 2. Statement. New Who is crap. No, you know.
Can I ask a couple of things? Firstly, what I never understood about the story was they have cyber bombs, Dalek bombs, sorry, not cyber bombs, Dalek bombs strapped to them because they're going to surround the ship and destroy it. But why wouldn't they just use their weaponry and surround it and destroy it? So that was one thing, even as a kid, I always thought about, but that's me being particularly picky, But the other thing I want to address with you two is, and people in the chat, now the Doctor was clearly going to kill Davros. Now the 5th Doctor has the big dilemma about should he kill him. In here, the 4th Doctor, he doesn't know the Daleks have taken it. He does the sonic to kill Davros, doesn't he? 100%.
He gets himself clear and presses the button.
Yeah.
It may well be because this incarnation of the Doctor is very fully aware of the mistake he made by not joining those two strands together in Genesis, and is going to make sure that leggy Daleks, as you see there,
I know,
are not going to win this time. So therefore, he presses the button to make sure he doesn't make the mistake before.
This will be this could be a spin-off, couldn't it? The little CBBS Daleks with their little kind of, scurrying along with Benny Hill music.
These are RTD. These are RTD Daleks, mate, to go with the future Davros. They've got to have legs.
Oh, look at that.
Absolutely.
Oh, bless. But yeah, actually, my other favourite bit, and it's always intrigued me, and I put it in our clip sequence then, which is now back off. It was that bit. I've always gone, he never said that, did he? And of course, I play the audio back. Yeah, he did. I mean, I know they can't go back and do retakes, the Russian and everything, but wow, it's this moment. Get out. It's a bit like Barbara Windsor in EastEnders doing, get out of my pub. And when he goes, back off. I love the way.
Had there been a moment, that could have been a whole merchandising opportunity there lost, because that's probably Doctor Who in the culture inventing a new profanity.
Yes.
I mean,
pull the cord.
Back when Porridge invented, naff off, Doctor Who could have invented spack off like that. Very much.
Yeah, it's got the attitude, hasn't it? Yeah. So that was, I mean, God, we're churning through because we've got a lot to cover tonight. But on that one, Destiny of the Daleks, great fun, good a little yarn. The Movellans, I'm surprised the Movellans haven't been back actually. But do you want to see another cliffhanger? Do you fancy seeing another cliffhanger?
Oh yeah,
I'll take you back to the 70s, since that's where we're dwelling. Here we go.
You said we were alone here, trapped like this, like a sponge beneath the sea. I, Morbius, who once led the High Council of the Time Lords, now reduced to this. Who are you? Where have you come from? You one of the Sisterhood?
I thought it was absolutely vital to do this. I'm so proud of the fact that I deserve an award. And I have problems with her. And lots of us on the production team that I hired only last week had problems with her.
Yeah, if RTD got hold of Brain of Morbius, that's what would have happened. Again, thank you, Garbage Who. Everyone give him a subscription. He's doing some great AI. I love that whole RTD tipping over Morbius. Fantastic. So great fun there. So, City of Death, I mean, a bit of Paris. Did this shock you at the time, John? I remember, there's me with my audio. City of Death Part 1, I remember exactly where I was on the 29th of September. I was at my grandma and granddad's, and we were trying to keep the dog, the poodle Mitzi, quiet because I was audio recording. My brother was fuming that our time with our grandparents has been spoilt by Brendan, taping everything. So, here we go. As you've explained, the context of the ratings, it went from 12 to 16 million. But I was shocked, John, that it was in Paris. And I was shocked that it was so amazing to see Doctor Who out there looking expensive, it seemed.
And they actually did, because in my little mind, I thought they were in Blackpool because that's the sort of thing Doctor Who does. And then you actually see, no, they are in Paris. And even in my little mind at the time, think about the fact, I recognized the fact there was actually a bit of a tune playing behind those lovely jaunts that Romana and the Doctor were making through Paris. It was an occasion which merited a theme, and it got a theme. And I know Dudley said he based it on an American Paris, which he absolutely does. But it's one of those that once heard, never forgotten. I don't know if I maybe got to the incidental music too quickly, Brendan, but I think it's synonymous with this story and the whole idea of Doctor Who in Paris. Yeah. And I was very, very surprised myself that when the Doctor repeated a visit to Paris in Vincent and the Doctor, I was sure that would be referenced in some way because they're synonymous, and we have fans very much in charge of Doctor Who then and now. But yeah, it was a bold step. And do you know who we have to thank for Doctor Who being in Paris? The man who ultimately ran it through the 80s, John Nathan Turner, who was a wizard on the calculator. And he went to Graham Williams and said, it will cost as much to take a small party of actors and crew to Paris as it would be to recreate it in Television Centre. So thanks to John Nathan Turner, we got our location shoot, which for the only time I think in Classic Who's history actually made sense. Arc of Infinity and Planet Fire, dodgy. This time there was a real reason to be there.
There was something, John, about this that, I mean, the dialogue, it's Douglas Adams all over. It is just beautiful because it's Paris. We've got the joke on the City of Love, City of Death. We've got some great model work. We've got some great musical flourishes. We've got some great wit and comedy. And I'm not a lover of comedy in Doctor Who, but it kind of just sits nicely. Everybody gets a denouement. Everybody gets a moment. Catherine Shell gets a moment to challenge her husband. It's set up. Duggan, he's not a comedic nonsense with the punching. We need his punch at the end. Everything is laced like a poem. It is a masterclass in writing and getting away with a bit of cheek. I think RTD thinks he can do a Douglas Adams and do the cheeky lines, but it's too literal and too obvious. Whereas this was like a symphony and a masterclass of writing.
Oh, it is wonderful. I think for me, there are so many elements in this story that I remember more than any other story, I think. And it's, I was talking to you last week, Brendan, and I said to you about, one of my favorite scenes. Even my brother, who, when I was living with him, is not a Doctor Who fan, but I had it on, and it's where the fourth Doctor goes, Romana, that funny man that was following us? Well, he's standing behind me, poking a gun in my back. And my brother burst out laughing, and he doesn't even like Doctor Who. It's so good. It's so well done by Tom. It's brilliant. And then what is it? You've got 3 glasses of water, make them doubles. Just little elements like that are great. But I want to also say to you two, there are two other things I just wanted to drop in. That wonderful bit where Tom walks in and he's thrown down. What a wonderful butler. He's so violent. Yes. He's on his knees. It's just iconic, isn't it? But the other thing that I was going to say as well, what you were talking about with RTD and Co, because it was on record. They said that he put this forward when they were bringing Doctor Who back, this story. And I think the only curse that I've got from it is it's a fantastic story, but I think that they seem to think this is the only way to do Doctor Who when it's not.
Yeah, I think for every, I've said this with Deadly Assassin, for every classic that Doctor Who delivers, and we're so grateful, You then get somebody plundering later on thinking, I think I can do a version of that. And they can't. Never try to emulate, just continue on. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think Douglas Adams was sat there writing. Well, of course, the context was all complicated, but he wasn't sat there writing this, finishing off David Fisher's work in this way. What he was doing was he was just kind of just doing his thing. I mean, God, I mentioned it was like a symphony. You've got John Cleese, Eleanor Bron, you've got touches. I tell you what, this is Doctor Who confident. This is Doctor Who and a team that just knows what they're doing. Tom Baker on top of his game. He actually gets on with Lala Wardy. You know, this is all working. Everything matches. Everybody's full of glee. Every character makes sense, from the butler, the Kerensky, David Graham. There's actually not much of a cast, but everyone has a real strong role. And when you've got the confidence to get away with a plot about 7 Mona Lisas, this is how Doctor Who should be. You just get in the TARDIS and go to Renaissance Italy, have a few jokes, right? This is a fake on the back of, and then come back. But it's just got such confidence, and I think that's what's missing. They're trying to do other things. They're trying to please people. They're trying to tick boxes. Just be on top of your game. That's all I ask.
It is, yeah, and you're quite right. It's just Douglas Adams isn't trying to be Douglas Adams. Douglas Adams is just writing, and the problem is when people try to emulate other writers, they fail miserably. He's just being himself, and what Douglas Adams is very good at is writing good dialogue that suits the characters for which he's been script editing for a story or two and writing for in the previous season. You're right. One of my favourite lines as well, you talk about going back to Leonardo's things, and the Doctor is threatened, says, "It's too late, Doctor." He said, "What do you mean it's getting too late? It's only 16:45. Or the thing. It was brilliant. You know, that's effortless. That's sort of line you go, God, I wish I'd thought of that line and written it down. But it's back into the cliche of Doctor Who, that sort of too late Doctor. And then he goes back with a lovely witticism that makes us all laugh. And for all the other characters or caricatures, you know, the bulldog drumming time is Duggan. The Count is very much the black-hearted villain, and he's got those Gatsby-wearing henchmen following people around. He even get to the point that they can get the Doctor and a man and Duggan out of a cafe while holding guns, and nobody seems to bat an eyelid. They get a few Gallic shrugs and then move on. So it's very much a thing not taking itself too seriously. And unfortunately, with current Doctor Who and Doctor Who became, it just takes itself far too. It's too far up its own fundament to be having fun. This is a story that's having fun with itself, but at the same point, fulfilling its function as a story with a beginning, a middle, and end, with enjoyable characters, enjoyable dialogue, and still being Doctor Who.
Yeah. And can I say, guys, as well, there's two things that I want to link this to, sort of to modern day, really. And the first one is, whenever the last few years where they've started to put in the Doctor's sexual nature in the iteration that I will not name, I always refer back to this over the time of people that talk that nonsense. And it's like, there's that wonderful line, and it's a quick line from the Fourth Doctor. And he says, oh, well, you're a beautiful woman, probably, you know, and that's the Doctor. He's asexual. You might be a beautiful woman, but it's beneath him. He just doesn't register it that way. And then the other thing that I was going to say is, what I love about this story, and what I love about a lot of classic Doctor Who, is it's not universe shattering arcs that are coming. The whole universe every season is going to be destroyed. It's no, the Earth is in danger. Humanity's in danger. Like, let's fix it. Everything else will carry on. And I wish, if it comes back in the future, you kind of get back to that, where it's like, you know, you don't have a whole season where it's like, oh, the universe is going to crack into, you know, if he doesn't solve this. I just want standalone stories. You know,
the problem with that is that each season has to outdo the previous season, and the threat has been bigger and bolder and everything. Yeah, and we all know ultimately, even casual viewers, that there's going to be a reset at the end of it, because there has to be. Otherwise, we're not going to, the program and is not going to continue. So it's an empty threat, all this sort of stuff. Whereas when the threat's smaller, the jeopardy is bigger.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
It's a straightforward linear narrative, and Yeah, the present team are trying to do too many things and actually failing on every blooming criteria. Whereas Douglas Adams, Terry Nation, David Agnew, all they do is a great straightforward story. We'll come to the creature from the pit in a minute. Straightforward story. This one, straightforward story. It was, I thought, as an 11-year-old, I thought it was so clever. This Mona Lisa's and going back in time to make money. I thought this was great idea. You know, it's not complex. I thought it was just clever. It was kind of clever Doctor Who. And when you saw it had that uni student humor, I know with and it would be with Douglas Adams, but I mean, we say it was small scale, but actually, I know what you mean. But obviously, it was only the end of humanity if they got it wrong. I mean, what was it, Duggan? You've just done the greatest punch or whatever. Wow, you know, and what a great payoff because he was looking like the joke element until that moment, and that what a denouement that was. And of course, I think it was Doctor Who fan in the thread was saying what a great trio, and I have to say. Tom Chadburn, I have to say, those could be the new Harry and Sarah, Lalla Ward and Duggan. I think they all played off each other really well.
I'm glad he didn't carry on, to be honest with you. I think he works within the confines of that story. Might have been a bit more difficult later on. You mentioned David Agnew there, Brendan.
Yeah.
Although David Agnew doesn't exist, he's a pseudonym used by BBC. He's actually using other BBC programs as well. But I didn't know that until much later on. And David Agnew, having written two of my favourite Doctor Who shows at the time, City of Death and Invasion of Time, for me to discover later on he didn't exist was a bit disappointing.
I do love as well this story, guys, where it's I love at the end where he goes, what is it? Duggan says, the Mona Lisa's back back on display. What with this is a fake written across it? Okay, how is it a fake if the Doctor's like, how is it a fake if it's written if it's painted by Leonardo? And it's like, yeah, good point actually. But you could see someone analysing it, couldn't you, and having that debate. Yeah, it's painted by Leonardo, but it's written in this is a fake across it.
And then you've got Stephen O'Neill. Sorry, then we've got Stephen O'Neill here. Love the line. 1979 being a table wine. I just think it's so multi-layered, and it's an enjoyable script.
That whole exchange at the top of the Eiffel Tower is brilliant. What part it has a bouquet. You eventually use just not only is it really well written, those two actors are really working so well together. And it's classic. That's what it is.
And if you're talking about favorite moment, I'm sorry, but I watched it again, and I don't know if it's because I recorded it on audio and I played it to death, but the end of part 2, what are you doing here? That is the question I ought to be asking you, Doctor, with the great flourish from Dudley Simpson. I mean, that and the final moments from the Eiffel Tower with the great Dudley Simpson kind of sequence there.
The crescendo, yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
I felt sad and happy. It was that type of music. But this, I suppose it is camp. I suppose it is melodramatic. But oh my God, you've got Julian Glover and Tom Baker
Brendan,
in the text.
But the thing about the City of Death, as much as it's not my favourite this season now, but nonetheless, it's still one of my favourite stories. But it's one of those stories at the time and subsequent to that when it finishes as a fan, you regret its passing because the Demons was that because I was quite looking forward to seeing Miss Hawthorne again the following week, but the story moved on about a new season. City of Death nestles in with stories like the Demons and the Stones of Blood, where it introduced characters where, you know what, I quite like the setup and quite like to see more of them, probably. So it inhabits a very happy space for us, the Doctor Who fans. It also is one of those stories that I think most Doctor Who fans are agreed on. And there's no such schism that it is the programme.
The cleverness of the sets, and I mean, it's the BBC, of course, and they can do history so well. And it was just clever use of budget and that. But this whole sequence, but Captain Ted Crowley, this is when you've got Tom Baker just Oh, he's just so on top of it. His cheek. This is what I liked. I mean, I showed Brain of Morbius, but I loved him when, Chop Suey, the Galactic Emperor. This is the fourth Doctor I liked as a kid. And of course, in this iteration, of course, he's still cheeking, Scalione and all the rest of it. And, darling, nobody can be as stupid as he is. And I love that. Absolutely loved it.
Like that scene there, I think I've said to you guys before. I think it's where he goes, "Oh, how inconsiderate, especially as I've gone to get the thumb screws." And Tom does that lovely thing where he sucks his thumb. He is the Doctor, isn't he? I mean, that's why Tom is so well regarded, because he is the Doctor. Everything he does here, you think Doctor, and it is wonderful stuff.
Right. And I have to say, having watched it again, was it yesterday or the day before? It is so well structured. It's bookended with the spaceship blowing up, then him going back, as you know, to stop him blowing up, but then it blows up. But then, as Jamie said, but surely he can get back and then he can give it another go when he's. But of course, Herman wasn't going to have it this time, and so it is just so neat. I mean, look. We all know that Colin Baker's Doctor had cats on his lapel. We all know the Fifth Doctor had a celery. Here, we've got the artistic flourish. Everything. We've got a bit of Mission Impossible in the art gallery when they nick the Mona Lisa, but actually it's a trick. It's all computer sim. Oh, do you know what? And you worry about the classics and saying, I can't keep watching it again. I can't keep watching Talons again and Robots of Death again and all the rest of it. This one, actually, you can. It's so multi-layered and it's so on point and it's so sharp. You can.
Never get tired of it. Never get tired of it. I mean, it's one of those wonderful Doctor Who stories where kind of what you're alluding to at the end, you get sad when it's ending. But you also get that feeling, do you know what? I might just put it on again.
Yeah, and it's odd. Unlike a lot of original classic Who, this really hasn't dated. Well, it's in 1979. It just doesn't. I even talk about the look of the thing, the costumes, and because it's set, in the classical chateau there of the Count, and then back in Leonardo's time, and then bits in the Louvre as well, and the Dr. Amaro in their costumes, and Duggan's in a trench coat. It just doesn't date. The way you watch something like Dad's Army, it hasn't dated because it was already dated when they made it. It's just as fresh today, even sort of it's to look at the thing than it was when it was first shown.
And I think in the chat, Mr. Squinty Mint at some point further back, I think he's right. This story predicted AI artwork because they talk about Gallifrey and computer painting, so 100%. But even when you look at that, what you were saying a few minutes ago, Brendan, about where they're in the Louvre and basically it's a digital, it's basically kind of what you got now with VR headsets, and that's what they were doing and predicting back then. So again, it just shows how good the writers were back then, really.
And I had no problem with this set at the end. This is just Keys of Marinus to me. This was just, they've given me Paris. They've given me some great music. They've given me Julian Glover, Catherine Shet. I mean, we could go on. And this was fine. It worked. And I loved the explanation of this is the stew that is going to make the human race. Nice little touch.
There's nothing wrong with that set. When you go 2 years forward, there's something different wrong with the time flight set. There's nothing wrong with it. I think this works and works impeccably well, this set.
My argument would be, if everybody watches Boom, that when we've spent all that money on an LED screen at the back, what is the bloody difference really between that painting and good lighting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's wonderful. I love that set. I love that model. That's one of my favorite models in Doctor Who history. But I would say, I always think that the writers of Star Trek The Next Generation, they must have seen this story, because when they do the final episode of Next Generation, it's with Q, back in the past, with the primal soup of humanity about to be made, Picard and Q. So I always think they must have seen City of Death. They must have.
Oh, must have, yeah.
Well,
I mean,
Doctor Who's always nicking, so that's allowed. Yeah.
I mean, I've got Graham here saying, I'm sorry, I'm a bit in and out, but have we discussed Kerensky and his little yellow chick? And of course, that scary cliffhanger, as Paul Richards says. It gives me an excuse to show that package again, but this time for us to comment on it, and I'll lower the volume. But basically, the Kerensky death. Later on, I think of the Borad and Time Lash did a similar thing, really. And also Sarah Kingdom, I know, go all the way back to Daleks Master Plan. It works, and of course the twisting. But the bit of the cliffhanger that I had to cut out because you only allowed so much was Julian Glover smiling gleefully. I wasn't too. They were going, but he was just smiling. I absolutely loved it. So I'll just do this again, and we can look at least two cliffhangers, the three cliffhangers from this story, the three big cliffhangers. So here we go, and
A new season and a new series of adventures.
I mean, this one, for example, this is your favorite, isn't it, John?
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the reveal, I adore it, and I would say I still think that looks great today. I don't think that looks bad at all. I absolutely love it, and I wish we got, when one day it does hopefully come back, we got a lot more practical stuff again, because there's something about Doctor Who and practical effects and masks like that. I just think it's wonderful.
And it's the
art. The Doctor Who needs people in costumes, rubber masks, other things, lumbering towards the Doctor or some screaming blonde companion. That's what Doctor Who does best.
This is
100%.
And this is, I mean, RTD with Stolen Earth, I remember distinctly. He would have, Sarah Jane in the car and the Daleks, and he was trying to, Torchwood. He was trying to have multiple cliffhangers when one will do, and then you can line it up nicely. The composer knows what he's doing and not all over the shop. And this whole sequence is well choreographed. We all know it well. Carlos, the music, and and he's in the cellar and he's doing what he's doing best.
Carlos?
I mean, but
one.
I was just gonna say, that reveal as well. When I watched it for the first time, it changes the story, because you find that there's something going on with time, because they've had that encounter in the cafe. But for all you know, at that particular point, it could just be a human being that's doing some scientific experiments. But then when you get the mask reveal and you think, oh, it's some horrible creature that's doing it, it then changes it again. So you're gripped for the next episode. It's so well done. I love it. I adore it.
Look at this, Mr. Worf. Hopefully, I've got your name right there. Good to see you. My earliest TV. I mean, this is it. This is formative. My earliest television memory was Count Scarlione ripping his mask off. Terrifying. I was only 4. I mean, yes, I was 11, so I was able to deal with it just about. But my God, I can just imagine you going, "Whoa!" A bit like what John's just said. You thought it was a human, and oh my God, how many are like that? And of course, this one has been mentioned in the thread, which the twisting and the cruelty. I love it. Love it. Switch. Oh, right, they've taken them ages to set that up, won't it? But to see somebody so cruelly picked on like that, because he was picked on. I mean, they talk about slave labor nowadays, but he had no he had no contract, did he? He was really beat. Wow. So that one really works, and of course.
It was creepy, but I was going to say to you guys, what I like about Skaroff in this story and the Count is he doesn't raise his voice throughout the story, from what I can remember. For the times of it,
Yeah,
he's very cold and calculating, and he just sends him to his death in that, with just keeping a calm, straight face. Sinister.
I think Julian Glover's taking his cue there from the way Tom Baker plays the Doctor, and Tom Baker plays it at that level too, and so he's backing off him. If had the Doctor been more of a ranter and a raver, like some of the modern Doctors have become, then I don't think you had that nuanced performance. My only worry is that the whole thing was based on the Count having to get a lot of money behind him, because he must have gone through an awful lot of latex every time he wanted to whip that off and get the next one. How many did he have in the drawers? How many of those spare masks did he have?
Now
Did
he will.
he get Michael Myers, or I don't know?
Well, can I?
We have. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to jump in what John just said there, because one thing I always found funny every time I watch it, even as a kid, he does relate to almost a sexual reference between him and the wife. Yeah, because he said, doesn't he say something like the odd little dalliance or something like that? You know?
Yeah. And of course, it gives us a chance to give this another play. That the beautiful sequencing of this.
See Leonardo?
Really?
He'll want to question you.
Well, I'll want to question him, sir.
He'll be here instantly.
What are you doing here? Exactly the question I ought to be asking.
Oh, I mean, I must have played that to death.
You know, but you know what? You've actually paused that a little bit too early, because that what he does, that's the question I should be asking you. 1, 2, 3, Doctor. You know, that's classic Doctor.
Well, and of course, I've had to cut it for copyright reasons. I can't do the great luxuriating like that. I've got.
No, absolutely. I don't want. I'll find another reason to fault you. Don't worry. But I'm just saying. But that is just—it's the pause. 1, 2, 3, Doctor. Wonderful.
I mean, it was John. It hurt me to actually edit it, because it's the whole sequence of the music. It's the rhythm of it, and I had to butcher it just to make it fit. And then.
What are you doing here? Exactly the question I ought to be asking you.
I know, and we finish the line ourselves, don't we? That's how we do it. So, City of Death was one of those that I have to say, it's the gift that keeps giving. I obviously have watched it again so recently, and I just said, "Oh, that was just delicious." So, should we have a bit of Creature from the Pit? And this is the one where I don't know where you're going to go, both of you, because when I've put that monster and its protuberance up before as a joke, of course, we have joked around. So I'm intrigued now where we're going to go with this. I obviously watched it again in the last week, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Again, it's very like the City of Death in the fact that the dialogue is playing around very nicely. A lot of well-chosen actors. Everybody is kind of really singing in this. And again, the ratings look as though they've gone lower. There is a context now. Maybe the ITV strike has moved on, but very healthy. The Lady Adrasta was married to Peter Egan.
Correct. Yeah. Up until her death a few years back, Peter Egan's still very much with us.
Yes, dog lovers and everything. But again, model work good, ambitious special effects, but a great idea for the end of the story. I loved all that with Erato and spinning and all the rest of it. And let's wreck the TARDIS. I always like a bit of kind of pushing the TARDIS to the limit, a bit of that drama. I have no problem with the monster. And when I watch it now, I'm thinking the one little thing that the designer must have pulled his hair out, which is it's about lighting. The lighting later on in part 4, when you see him and you can see all the different shades of the green, and he's just at the door, it works a lot better than actually when they try and light it up so much that it actually just starts to look a little bit.
I think they punish themselves far too much for this. It's of its time, and they're trying their very best. And there are some super shots of the creature as a model, which works tremendously well. There's a wonderful piece of CSO where they have the sort of the front bit, which is the weather balloon,
Yeah.
put behind the model to give the idea that this thing's undulating away. And it all works perfectly well. Where it falls down and where they ran into trouble was the appendage they gave to the thing, and they all fell about laughing, and they tried to fix that. So they gave it pincers for the next day's filming. So that's what all. But as an effect for 1970s Doctor Who, there's nothing particularly wrong with it. And I think they punished themselves far too much with this. Where this is probably brilliant is it's one of the most effective jungle sets, showing it there,
Yeah.
ever produced, I think, in Doctor Who. It beats Kinda into a cocked hat, and Kinda comes 2 years
Yes.
later with a bigger budget to Doctor Who. It looks so authentic now. This was the first of the season to be filmed, so they still had a fair bit of money, but it worked. I think the wolf leads worked perfectly, and I think even at this late stage, everyone's just the right side of chewing the carpet. Lady Adrasta, played by Myra Francis, does go a bit OTT, but it fits. It fits the costume, the operatic nature of the costumes, and whatever else is going on. I just think this is a joy to watch. Do you know why? Because it's meant for what it is, 4 bundles of 25 minutes of escapism, which is why we come to Doctor Who. We don't come to Doctor Who because we want reminded of what's going on in the news. We don't come to Doctor Who to have issues thrust down our throat. We come to be entertained, informed, we'll have a laugh, have a scare, whatever it is. And this does that in spades.
Well, John, obviously, I totally concur. I won't elaborate. There's no need to. The Forest, I agree. Fab, and the film quality worked. John, Doctor Who has to do a few things. Yeah, try and get my imagination going for all the reasons John was saying there. You know, we need a bit of escapism and adventure, but the wolf weeds, what a great little touch. I love the wolf weeds. I actually think that's that's when Doctor Who's on point, when they just do these amazing new inventions.
Oh, I've always thought they were wonderful, and I just love the bit where they completely engulf K9, and he makes that little sound like a computer.
Yeah.
And it is great, and you know, I like you say, it's a really clever idea. I think with this story, a lot kind of follow on from what John was saying. Really, I think it always gets hit because of the effect of the creature. You know, and they always have that gif of Tom blowing down something on the creature at some point. You know, that's always out there. But it's a really fun story, and I'd say it romps along really, and I would have more of that today than what we've got in the last few years, without a shadow of a doubt.
It's a safe pair of hands. Chris Barry, who's well-known, Brenda Borbies, directed by Chris Barry, well-known safe pair of hands with Doctor Who, and he himself felt, unfortunately, that as a result of what they consider the failure of the creature, he wasn't asked back. I look upon this as Doctor Who, on its uppers in terms of money, still producing the goods. And I still maintain, even if you look at the creature, it's nowhere near as bad as any of them thought it was. There's a bit of a laugh about the appendage and about the pit. Yeah, okay, get that. But essentially, there's not much wrong with it.
And plot-wise, as somebody did say, in the thread, it was a nice idea that a monster who cannot communicate. And so we needed that. I mean, I love it. It was there. It was under our nose all the time, the communication device. And when it all comes together in that great cliffhanger, love all that stuff.
Episode 3 cliffhangers, one of the banger cliffhangers of the season. Why? Because for once, it's like the Demons episode 4. For once, it's the villain that's in trouble, and it finishes on a big shot of Adrasta screaming "No, no, no!" as the sort of the Fagin characters bring on this thing. Give it. It is so operatic, so big to the max, and it works. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's just like I say, it's wonderful to watch. It's great fun, and I honestly think the actors in this story are just on top of their game. They're on top form for this story, and it is just a joy to watch them all go at it.
Well, you've got little Organon. I mean, the thing is, a good writer makes you really believe in each character. Lady Adrasta was just very powerful to me as an 11-year-old. I thought, whoa, you wouldn't mess with her. She's like a school teacher.
Kinky.
Organon was lovely, and you know that moment when the doctor says, she says he can go down the cave, and then the doctor goes, "Oh, your star, whatever." It was something about your stars and all the rest of it. And
Organon,
Yeah.
has a Douglas Adams type quote in it as well, which I still remember to this day. And when he's explaining what he does, he says, "The past explained, the future foretold, the present apologized for," which I thought was wonderful.
But it's just the fact that you get those lovely touches, and he crosses his fingers at the
It's
very
written in
end.
stars. Yeah.
It was just lovely little, absolutely. Even the what's his name, the man who was in charge of the wolf weeds. He gets to be, he gets to say, right, we're going to sort this out now. It's about time we did this, and actually,
I love whip, didn't he? That fella.
And I love the cleverness of. I love it. For example, I always go back to Robots of Death when the doctor gets clever ass with his language and just says, no, that was a statement and all the rest of it. In this one, I love the fact that the argument is sat there logically when they say to Lady Adrasta, well, if we're lying about the Tythonian, you touch the communicator and then we'll know you're not what the truth is. Great logic. How can she, as a villainess, walk herself out of that?
Love all that. It's wonderful stuff.
And
look at that.
Now, in the thread, I don't know who it was. I'm sorry, because I'm trying to keep with a lot of things at the same time. But so I do apologize who said it, but I'm making your point now, which was, I think it was Paul Richards who said maybe the scrap merchants were a bit iffy though. Maybe they were a little bit on the iffy side. I must admit that I was saying all the characters did something in City of Death and that, but they as a conglomerate kind of worked. I remember watching this, and I remember I want to get back to the Lady Adrasta area, and I want to get back to the TARDIS, and I want to get back to the pit. I was less interested in that scenario,
What they are is just they give the companion someone to spark off in the story. So Romana ends up with those. They probably wouldn't be allowed today because there's stereotyping goes on there of an anti-Semitic nature. So you might run into problems with the way that they're portrayed nowadays. Yeah.
And we've got to say Arlene Way, because she goes back to the beginning. 63, old mother. And of course the Dalek invasion of Earth. Wasn't she in that as well?
The movie.
Yeah. As was David Graham, of course, in Kerensky. So great to see her, because of course it's there you go, John. Unfortunately,
wonderful.
I have to say, season 17 is not pitch perfect. As a Doctor Who fan and as an 11-year-old, I didn't really like how I know they were doing it to sideline K9, but I was struggling with. And they had it in Leisure Hive as well. It continued, didn't it? That basically the writers are wanting rid of him. And I didn't like that. It's like Chameleon when they blow him up at the end. I hate all that stuff. So I didn't like this series for really what they did to K9 most of the time.
Well, it was also, wasn't it, Destiny of the Daleks, when you go back to that one, not just this one about sidelining, but didn't they have that dilemma of, should we have K9 face the Daleks? That's why they sidelined him for that story. Yeah. Who comes out on top? That's a writer's crisis, isn't it? Not a viewer and a fan's crisis. That's something you want to see, and you see it in your head.
I mean, I'm glad K9 didn't face the Daleks, because I don't know how you could really explain how he'd survived that. For those who are straight, that's Lalla Ward.
An interesting story about how she's dressed. This was actually Lalla Ward's first story recorded as Romana, and they dressed her like Mary Tam, hence that outfit. So she didn't like it, nobody else liked it, and from then on it became a lot more quirky.
Yeah, a bit too schoolgirl sometimes, but anyway. Wolf Weeds, yes, good on them. You see, that's what I mean. Look at the monster there. The colorization's much better, I think. I don't know. I can imagine being the designer just going, oh, please light it properly. It would have helped. I'll say the same about the mandrels later, to be quite honest. So yeah, I think this is look at that. I mean, model work like of this quality. Look at it. I mean, I love this idea of the egg, and it was metal and all that stuff. You see, this is it. I'm not a sci-fi, I don't want Isaac Asimov stuff. I do actually like the quirky sci-fi, the sci-fi bordering on fantasy. And that's where Doctor Who sits for me. And when they do these clever little wheezers, absolutely adore it. Absolutely adore it. So I agree. This one just worked. I mean, I'm trying to think, where did it flatten? I mean, City of Death, I think, is really on point. Destiny of Daleks had a few little dips. I found episode 1, for example, in Destiny, when they're walking around a lot and the Crowley stuff, I was like, oh, get on with it.
I love that the most. I love all that. The atmosphere is brilliant.
Oh, well, we'll disagree on that one, because I was.
The
Do
first
you know
time.
why? Do you know why, John? It's because of my audio recording,
Yeah.
and I was like, all I can hear is a bit of rock. Bang,
Because
bang, bang, bang.
interestingly, we talked about Dudley Simpson. I think there's only about 3 or 4 minutes of incidental music
Yes.
in Destiny in totality. It's mostly atmosphere and special sound. It's great. Love it.
So, what are your favourite moments about Creature from the Pit? I'll come to you first, John Yulden.
I think for me, it's the wolf weeds are great. I actually adore it though, where you've got the clip where Tom, the Doctor's about to be executed, and he just goes down the well. I love that moment.
Yeah.
Just to hell with it, I'm going down there anyway. It's but for me, it's always the wolf weeds bit. It always makes me chuckle with the sound of K9. I think it's wonderful. I do still have the odd chuckle about a certain creature and Tom, speaking down its appendage.
I mean, I know it. Yeah, I can't say any more about that. That's just as it is.
You show enough pictures of it anyway over several streams, Brendan.
I certainly have. But I love this whole sequence of 6 seconds, Romana, face the rock, do this, no, the whole thing is it's so dramatic. Absolutely love it. You want it to keep going because you actually believe. I mean, Sadako agrees with you, John, on the Skaro thing. The thing is world building. This is the point. The atmosphere. And you believed in it. You went with it. I tell you what, John, what Destiny of the Daleks did it a bit, and Creature from the Pit did it. When he jumped down, and then in part 2, he gets his book out about how to, climbing Mount Everest, and then he did the origins of the universe, and he laughed at the prologue, and the whole thing. I remember as an 11-year-old going, I thought it was good, and I remember thinking I don't want it to go too far, and that was as an 11-year-old. You like a bit of cheek, but you don't want it to be pushed. It's funny, isn't it?
That's pure Douglas Adams, all that sort of stuff, and it is. I think when showing the scripts, Graham MacDonald, head of series drama at BBC, objected to that. He thought it should come out, but it stayed in. In terms of my favourite bit, we're talking about characters who could have been companions. Tom Baker always wanted an elderly companion, and Professor Amelia Rumford could have been that. But if we park her, Geoffrey Belden as Organon, the relationship with the two of them have some of the best scenes. The interplay between those two old stage of actors is fantastic. And again, it's one of those paths not taken thing. Imagine just a story or two with Organon in the TARDIS going with the Doctor, because there's a rich comic vein and drama that could have been taken from that. So that's a path not taken that I might have liked, because my favourite bits of that are the bits where they're together. Geoffrey Belden is excellent in the story, and it is one and only appearance in the entirety of Doctor Who. Strangely,
it's mad, isn't it? Well, and of course, the talk is once they were thinking about him for the main role. Graham here, I remember loving the fact that Errata was blooming enormous, like Kroll from the previous year. The size of the monster really impressed a young me. Likewise, the Crinoid a few years prior. I mean, the power of Kroll. One day I'll talk about that horrible slice across, but. Yeah, I mean, look at this model work. I loved all this. And I think this is when Doctor Who is way beyond. It hasn't got the Disney budget. Who cares? But it's got the ambition. And the ambition of the idea is all you need. Because as a kid, you're working all this out. As long as I've got some gizmo and you can see some line, it's all done for you.
The point is, as I said in some of the streams regarding
Hooray.
it's the appendage. I said about some of the current series on reviews with you is Doctor Who had a Disney budget, and at times we didn't see the budget.
Yeah.
So therefore, zero ambition. This had zero budget and had loads of ambition. They didn't let it stop them, and that's the difference.
I was just going to say exactly that. Yeah, exactly the same as you, John, on that. It's, you know, we want to be this. We got to have a budget to rival Marvel and Lucasfilm and all the works. No, you don't. You just need a solid script, good actors, and a good production team.
But you see, I know the joke, and it's allowed, isn't it? We all joke about that appendage of the Creature from the Pit. But do you know what?
Team bigger.
But remember, space babies, nappies, bogeyman. I mean, honestly, you think Creature from the Pit, really, there needs to be a major revisionism that goes on, because space babies made with a Disney budget, and yet this was just a designer trying to just make the best of it all. He needed a communication element to it. I mean, bless them. And of course, I know it's a nice little joke for us all now, but Space Babies, Devil's Cod, you start to think, hold on a minute. With the big budget RTD, you were taking the P. This was an accident.
Yeah.
And they tried, bless them. But yes, Creature from the Pit is nice comfort TV for me. It's
it's made by crafts people. You know, those models, those costumes. It's not people rat-a-tat-tatting on a computer keyboard. These are crafts people showing years and years of experience trying to make something work. And that's why they all went away and put their head in their hands, because they thought they'd failed. Years later, the fact is we're still watching Creature from the Pit. 40 years from now, we'll be watching the stuff from today. I doubt it.
Nah, not a chance.
It's interesting. Stephen O'Neill reminds us it was Dudley Simpson's final season doing the incidental music. I wonder, he didn't know though, did he? It wasn't
not until John Nathan Turner took over, took him out to a boozy lunch and sacked him.
Yeah, never go to the boozy lunch, I think is the lesson there. So I mean, we're rattling through this. I think Nightmare on Eden next, but in the meantime, let's just kind of remind ourselves of a bit of fun, of course. There you go, folks. Did you see our Gooch one, John?
No.
Well, we must show you this one because you know Gooch very well, obviously, from Terror of the Autons. Gooch had a different ending. You see, since Fear are starting to get
him that had the big black pudding.
Yeah, we're getting behind the scenes footage that was on the cutting room floor. So this is what really happened to Gooch.
I understand you've lost a couple of scientists. Oh no.
What's wrong? It's Gooch. It's Gooch.
Look for yourself.
Gooch must have left in quite a hurry.
Yes. Yes, he must.
No, it wasn't. I was thinking it was McDermott who had the big black pudding. Gooch ended up in the lunch. Gooch had an accident with his lunchbox, which is very painful.
That's it. So again, I'll say it's Garbage Who, our moderator, Garbage Who. I say, please, can you do something for me? And he delivers loads in spades. There's loads to come. If you want more super chats, shonky chats, would be grateful. But please give a sub to Garbage Who, please.
Yeah.
So And while you're at it, John Yulden, Sci-Fi Chronicles 79. We'll say more of which later, but there's two to give subs to. So Nightmare in Eden is one of those, I think I said earlier, is starting to go up in my ratings. The story was always great and ambitious. I never had a problem with that. It was, of course, we'll have to talk about the mandrels again and various little things and those strange costumes that all the passengers wore and all that stuff. So where do you stand on this, John Daly?
Out of all the episodes and stories in season 17, this one has grown in my estimation the most because, yeah, it is. You're right. It's a cracking good story, and it's an archetypal example as of get beyond of how cheap it looks, and this does look cheap. There's no denying that. This is a cheap-looking Doctor Who story. It's a Doctor Who with some dodgy performances in it as well, some particularly dodgy costumes, but nonetheless, if you treat this like you would watching a stage play on television, you can forgive it plenty then. So once you did all of the things that annoy you when you're 12 or 14 watching this don't annoy you when you're 40 something or 50 something or whatever. They don't, and you just appreciate it for what the story is. And this was a story fraught with difficulty. Alan Bromley, the director who directed one previous Doctor Who, The Time Warrior, apparently upset everybody, and it led to a very fraught, tense atmosphere on set. I think it benefited from that because ultimately I think there are some really good performances. And I take my hat off in particular here to David Dacre, who plays the captain who eventually falls victim to drug addiction very quickly, mind you, he does. And there's a particular scene in this which stays with me where there's a particularly shoddy acting going on with shoddy creatures attacking shoddy extras and killing them. But then you flash back to him as the captain of the ship, laughing at these creatures killing his passengers. And all of a sudden, that hits you like a bus. You go, this is real, this is happening, and this is the effect of the drug on him. And I think that's one of those little diamond moments in this which help to lift this story up out of the cheap morass that it might otherwise be known as. So if I'm going to say anything about this, it's a story which I probably rubbished quite freely when it first came out, and now I cherish.
I think it was partly because we were all watching it from week to week to week, and as TARDIS travel says, Jeremy, it did seem to just get a little bit less as the season went on. The budget had obviously been spent, let's be honest, and you just started to see it, and it's a shame because the ambition is actually well and truly still there. I remember as an 11-year-old thinking this is just, again, I thought, oh, so clever, like the Mona Lisas and going back in time and everything. I thought, oh, this is all about drugs. Oh God. I mean, we had Grange Hill on the telly, just saying no, and then you've got this. And this is all you need. When people waffle on about, the people who don't know, who waffle on about Doctor Who saying, oh, it always had a heavy message, it was always political, it was always woke, it was always this, it was always that. No, interlaced in this script, you can't deny it was that whole message. But as John has just said, it comes across, the script has the impact, the character gives you the impact. You don't get a message to camera saying, don't take drugs, people.
And that's precisely it. At no point does nobody do a Jodie Whittaker and almost turn to camera and tell you, hey,
yes,
drugs are bad for you. Oh, this is nonsense. It's ridiculous. It just shows you by a captain who appears to be caring and looking after his crew and his passengers, ultimately laughs at their deaths. That says it without saying it. Show, don't tell.
Yeah,
it's also, I was going to say, guys, it also, unlike what we've seen in the last few years, it doesn't treat the audience like idiots, like kids like idiots. It basically tells a story and it trusts them to be intelligent enough to figure out what's going on themselves. And it's wonderfully done. So I'm like you, John. I mean, when I first watched it, I wasn't a fan of it, if I'm honest. But over the years, I've grown to like it more and more because it's what you were saying in the last story, the ambition of it, really.
Can I just say, Brendan, I'm sorry on this particular segment, I think I appreciate this more now because now when you watch this initially, you think, oh, Doctor Who would be so much better if it just had more money and more budget spent on it. Now we've got that, we realise that's not the essence of Doctor Who. Doctor Who's about good stories, and you get past sometimes the bad acting, the dodgy sets, the shaky walls. You get beyond that, and a good story is forever.
And the issue is, it was never about let's have a big budget. You could tell it looked tired. That was a different issue.
Yeah.
This could have survived very easily. And the Mandrels, bit like the creature from the pit who gets a bad PR. Do you know what? When you watch it again, when you see the Mandrels in Eden, and it's darker, and their eyes light up, and actually, I feel sorry for the designer again, because the designer, what are you designing them for? For being in Eden, where the nightmare is, so to speak, and then for a studio set where, let's face it, if they turn the bloody lights a bit lower, make it a bit more like Alien, they would have worked. And so
that's what Bob Baker himself says, Brendan. Bob Baker says that in one of the interviews on the box set. He says the Mandrels were designed in his head to be lowly lit. Yeah.
And then this would have been a completely different story, because we agree the ideas there. We agree overall it works and the ambition's worthy. You just needed the monsters to deliver. There's nothing wrong with the design. And as they say, a bit of bloody lighting change would have sorted out, John Youlden.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the lighting would have sorted it out. But, another example I'll give is when you go a few years on and you go to Caves of Androzani and you've got the Queen Bat, walking along, and Graham Harper directs it brilliantly, where he directs it from low down looking up. So trying to, they realized that, this isn't going to be thought of highly regarded, but at least he tries to give it menace by coming at you and sort of lumbering over you. And I think maybe if they'd done that kind of approach to it more so, I think it would have helped. But you're right, it needed to have the corridors sort of dimmed down quite a bit in the shadows.
That's what Ken Grieve does with the Daleks and Dissing the Daleks. He shoots them low up the way and makes them far more menacing by doing so. Yeah,
100%.
It's such a shame, because you've got the nightmare set. I know it's not Creature from the Pit Forest, but it's the lighting's obviously a lot better, so it works. And the Mandrels look a lot better there. It's just such a shame that they've gone for such ultra lighting. Yes, on a spaceship, but just too much, not needed. He obviously likes blowing into protuberances though, because this is happening again. Shocking. He must have.
Apparently, it doesn't taste like chicken. It tasted like vegetable soup. Apparently. Yeah.
See, there's the Mandrel. There's a classic shot for everybody. Mandrels are given a bad PR. Look at that set. The blues and the greens. That would have worked. That would have so changed.
You know what? Talk about that set you're talking about. There's a key point there about Nightmare of Eden. It has one of the spookiest moments in the whole of Doctor Who's run, classic and new, where Romana's looking into the projection of Eden, and Stott, the character, is in there, and it's just you see the profile in his eye. It's terrifying. It really is spooky, and credit to them.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I remember the excitement when she goes over that threshold into it, and it
great cliffhanger.
As TARDIS Travels has said, I think we all see it. It's the minuscule, it's Carnival of Monsters, but it's a good idea. Do it again in a slightly different way. This isn't more of an interactive miniscope, isn't it? Though this is what I mean.
There's only space for planets with 4 letters or 3 letters. That's the Corpo Fallipatorius on there, because that might have taken up the whole of Trist's dial. Are we going to talk about Trist, do you think? And his very good German accent.
Well, he's already been mentioned in the thread. People saying that terrible Peter Sellers iteration. Graham is wondering if I've done extra homework and research and seen any decent columns in season 17. The counsellor said I've got to move on. But
let it go.
That cliffhanger, it's a shame, because I show the bit before the cliffhanger, actually, where it looks like bitten by some electric moth or something. However, straight after that is the moment when you see they're cut away and there's a mandrel. It's a bit like you're watching Play Away, and it's such a shame on the lighting. Such a shame.
Yeah.
You also have a little BBC props hand holding the
Yeah.
cut out in places, well, which, in fact, the DVD, bless them, they CGI that out if you want to not to see or be offended by a hand. You can
Is it, is it,
the hand is gone.
is it the same hand that was
Under
underneath?
Sutek's arse. Yeah.
Yes, yes. That hand has got about. He does
Yes.
exploratories as well.
Yeah.
God knows where that hand was with a rattle.
Now we've got Horns of Nimon in a moment, and I have to say the costumes in this season are interesting. June Hudson, of course, you could see she liked her purple, she likes her burgundy. You can see because Creature from the Pit and the other story that's gone out my head because we're rattling through. But
That's Destiny of the Daleks. Destiny of the Daleks. She did that.
But in this one, you've got the black, and it never worked. You know, they're black costumes, and they all looked a little bit silly. And then Horns of Nimon, they went very black and silly. Yes, and of course Don Brennan from Coronation Street in a black glitter outfit. Yeah, that never quite landed. I'll be honest.
Do you know, it's a very gay look, some of the costumes, because they have little peak caps as well. So they could have formed a very gay group had they chosen to. No offense to you and your cap, John, but caps worn by the guards in this, the customs men.
I have a
slightly camp.
I have an issue with that black uniform takes me to Paradise Towers. Paradise Towers. And do you know what I mean? And it just doesn't I find it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Stop doing it, designers.
I will also say with this story as well, being an insurance guy, I do always laugh at the fact that we're in the far future and there's still insurance claims. And you get the doctor sort of, where they collide and he goes, come on, I'm pretty sure that was knock for knock, Am
I right in thinking Doctor Who didn't predict the future there because has knock for knock now gone?
It's gone, yeah. Yeah, it's erased.
Oops. Sorry, we got that bit wrong. Bob Baker.
So Nightmare of Eden, I mean, and again, sometimes the target novel going with it. I mean, as people have said, the Creature from the Pit one they enjoyed an awful lot. It kind of accompanies it well. Sometimes it's like Warrior's Gate. I need the book to explain a few things. I mean, as an 11-year-old Catholic, I wasn't exactly on the just say no front regarding, a drugs expert. So, what I have learned is Fraxoin. Get an X in the title. Get an X, and it just sounds good, doesn't it?
It wasn't originally called Fraxon, it was called Xyloflin or something, which was shortened to Zip. And it was Lala Ward who said Zip sounded a bit too snippy and likeable and comedy-like for children. And they changed it to Frax and Vraxoin to make it similar to heroin, I'd imagine. But Brendan, are we going to talk about the cliffhanger to episode 3, which is probably one of the best cliffhangers ever?
I actually think, for the sake of an argument, I think it is probably... It's got to be up there as one of the best cliffhangers ever, and it's the music. I'll get to it, right? I'll just line it up, because
a new season.
I won't do all that again. I'll just get to it because there it is. Again, John, I struggled. I had to blooming edit, and I hate that. Right, here we go. I could see you when that was playing earlier, listening to the beat. I was asking Jamie musically, what's going on here? I said, because I love it. It's like an earworm. I love it.
Yeah.
And of course, if everybody understands my context, I've said it a few times, I was recording as well as watching, but I played these hundreds of times. And this bit, I have to say, on the audio, it's just a nice bit of music to me. But when I watched it again a few months ago and then watched it again recently, I thought, oh my God, that is a hell of a good cliffhanger. My God.
It's a great piece of electronic effect as well for its time. It works really well. It's just, everything comes together. It's just, you're talking about the perfect cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Everything really is working for this. Brilliant.
Well, here we go then. Let's enjoy it.
The scream comes in just at the right point to Douglas's music. It merge into each other. It's perfect.
I was trying to make an audio to keep playing this because I have to say I will go to bed tonight and that will play and play. I just love it because I remember we were all of this age, surely, weren't we? Don't tell me I'm wrong. And you kind of. I play the music a bit like you had in Star Trek and a few of the American shows because they were going for a break. So although we never saw the break, you always got the music crescendo.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun. And of course, if I had my Doctor Who dolls and all the rest of it, and I was just imagining it, and I was doing a drawing in school and pretending that was all new material, it wasn't. I remember dun, 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 and this music. I'm playing. I'm in a different space. Sorry, they'll take me away in a minute. Should we have it again? I love it. Sorry.
Do it again. Yeah.
Here we go. Sorry, I'll have to take it off before I freak out. I'll explode.
I still think that stands up, though.
Brendan texted me to ask me, what's your favourite cliffhanger from this season? And just sheerly, I told him who it was, and he comes straight back to me and says, exactly the same as mine. So it just shows we're not weirdos, we're not freaks, we're not stuff. We just appreciate what a bloody good cliffhanger looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. It stands up today. I mean, you could, for me, you could put that in a new production of Who as a cliffhanger, and that would still look great. That would still look superb, you know, and people would be getting praised for it. But these guys were doing it on a shoestring at the time.
As Brendan said, they probably spoil it by interlacing it with things going on elsewhere to create multiple cliffhangers. But in doing so, reducing the effectiveness of it. The wonderful thing about this is the Doctor in danger. I mean, I know the Doctor will be fine, but that's not the point. It's how they do it, the way the music complements the theme music coming in, and a stunning, and I do mean stunning, electronic effect for the BBC of its time. Brilliant. It really is excellent.
Well,
it's one the kids would have been talking about all week, isn't it, guys? You know,
it's just the top of the pops effect that you got at the end, and you're thinking, oh my god, he's disappearing between two spaceships. And of course, as a kid, you're going, I don't know how they can work that out. There's a lot when you fall down a pit and they'll be discovered somewhere. But to see him disappear, and you're going, well, hold on a minute, and they're separating the two spaceships. It looks, it was
nowadays all we're worried. Oh god, they're having a bi-generation. Who's going to get the pants?
Well, yeah, who's going to wash them? So here's another great special effect by our great friend Garbage Who. Go, Sarah. Yeah, sorry about that. So there's good old Garbage Who. Sometimes he does type it all in and he says, I didn't expect the baked beans. He never expected the Carvanista, but now the Carvanista's a bit of our niche thing, really. So here's the end of the season that was broadcast. 6 million. It was Christmas as well. I mean, kids are pulled away from the telly, with shopping and all the rest. And video recorders were rare. So 6 million, 8.8, up to 10.4. But if you look at the whole of season 17 as broadcast, it didn't dip. It actually has done really well. It has sustained. Which I think RTD would he'd wish for now. So this was it wasn't the planned end of the season, but it was the one that ended up ending the season. Horns of Nimon. And this is another one that I struggled with initially. I like the idea, the labyrinth, the Minotaur, love all that idea, the sacrifices, the husks, bit Planet of the Spiders, love it. Janet Ellis, Blue Peter advertised it, I'm in Doctor Who, and we got the clip. Graham Cowden from what's his face, A Peculiar Practice. I love that. Honestly, I just wished again a director or somebody would have just said, just pull that back a little bit, get the lighting back a bit, that sort of thing.
Well, a little bit of trivia for you on this one. Graham Crowden, many years later, our street here, when we moved in 93, they hadn't sold a lot of the properties, and they were filming Waiting for God just literally around the corner from my house. So an entire estate effectively, and there were only 4 houses occupied, one of them being ours. So I went round there and I got to see Graham Crowden sort of, doing his bit in Waiting for God, and it was wonderful stuff to see, just this this great actor that I remember from Horns of Nimon. It was wonderful stuff, wonderful. And I love this.
He was very
story.
nearly the Doctor as well.
Yeah, he would have been. He
Yeah.
would have been amazing as the Doctor. He really
I
would.
I almost see where RTD. Oh, well, you can always see where RTD nicks his ideas, but the great and bountiful Third Empire or something of Earth, later on, and here you get that speech from Soldeed. What's he say about it's on. I can't.
Yeah,
remember.
I know what you mean. It's
the Skaro Empire. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
yeah, the great, wonderful Skaro Empire. Yeah.
Weakling scum.
yeah.
Sadako, answer in the middle. Yeah.
Sadako, there's two issues I had with Horns of Nimon. Firstly, watching it right after Nightmare of Eden, it really makes the season feel like a bit samey. I know what you mean. I do know what you mean, Sadako. I just think you could tell that the budget was just getting a little bit stretched, and so they were trying their best with various things. Plot-wise, it's very different, isn't it? Really, but I think. Do you know what? When you see Destiny, City, and Creature, the cast is quite tight. I just think, the numbers game here, I think and the guards and everything, I think we just needed it. For example, in Horns of Nimon, we go to another planet for a second to see how they've already kind of, wrecked it. I don't know. I think it was just trying to do too much. That's my argument.
There was a planned intention to have far more monsters in this season. They decided that the Keach Time season that hadn't been much going on in it. And if you think about it, there wasn't. You had the big crawl. There was nothing much going on in Armageddon Factor or Andros of Tara. You had the Ogre, Swans of Blood. Nothing really much in terms of monsters in Pirate Planet or in Rebus Operation, apart from a little bit of a Shrivenzal here and there. So there was a real attempt to get back to men and women in rubber costumes menacing the Doctor. So that's the reason why there is. I agree with Sadako. There is a similarity, but I think it's because you've got a lot of stomping alien and stomping about brightly lit corridors. And the intention being, I think, was to go to visit Krinoth and have that on film at Ealing. We're giving it a whole different texture, I think. But again, the budget got to it. They were hanging on to money for Shada. Interestingly, had Shada been cancelled before they put any money towards it, Horns of Nimon, perhaps Nightmare of Eden 2, might have had a lot more money spent on it and might have looked completely different. Who knows? But I also found out quite recently that the intention with the designer was that the Nimon, because there's one scene where the Nimon head sort of almost comes off. The intention with the designer was for these to be helmets and there was another head beneath. So that all made sense when I rewatched it. And again, it lends me to do this idea of forgiveness. The season I criticised so much at the time. It makes me forgive it more now,
Well, I mean, John Yulden, Stephen O'Neill here says, sorry, I'm flashing so many up. TARDIS Travels, Jeremy, the Nimon were the worst Doctor Who monsters. Now, I actually disagree on that one. I think the mandrels in how they were executed were, because they were, we've mentioned the lighting with the mandrels, but they didn't have a voice, so to speak, and they were like little poodles in the end with his dog whistle, whereas the Nimon had a brilliant voice, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was a great voice. I would say that no, it's nowhere near some of the worst monsters. I mean, we've got Jinx Monsoon on that list. So I would say about this story, I do adore this story. The one thing that I've always found a little bit concerning is the outfits the Nimon are wearing. You can pretty much see right up the Nimon's arse for most of the story. There's nothing hidden to the imagination at all in that outfit, is there really?
I was audio recording. I wasn't looking there. I was looking at the pause.
I agree with John. I was.
Oh, listen. John Yulden, let's just confirm tonight, as we've reviewed season 17, he says, as a straight man, out of everything in season 17, he fancies a Smurf woman, and now he's saying he was looking up a Nimon skirt. There's issues here.
I'm comfortable with my sexuality. I'm quite fine. I had Janet Ellis in this story. I'm okay.
I think you're non-binary.
Yeah. Label me, everybody.
Can I say in terms of, I used to agree with the contributor who said that I'm one of the worst monsters of Doctor Who. I thought that for years and years and years and years and years. And again, rewatches and watching and appreciating. Now, Brendan, you know how much I love season 18. It is probably my favourite Doctor Who season of all. However, that contains the worst Doctor Who monster in the Fomazi, which is just the Nimon far better than the Fomazi look. For all its glitter, for all its extra money and glossiness, the Fomazi look like just what they are. Sort of silly costumed necklace. Hard to believe outfits. So, yeah,
I mean,
I've changed my view with the Nimon.
It had everything that a Doctor Who should have as a classic, really, because it had the great idea of a story. It had the sacrifice. It had a monster in a lair. It was emulating a myth or legend that, you know, that Doctor Who does well on that sort of stuff. But as David Harding in Toronto here says, someone once told me that the idea for the Nimon was that the heads we see them with were actually armor, as John was. That there was something underneath the Minotaur looking headpiece. I suppose it's money, isn't it? As you were saying, John. I mean, ambition is one thing, and it's just what can they deliver in the time frame. I mean, and is it necessary to spend that money as well?
There is a scene that actually tips over, and you do get to see, and you thought, well, that surely would have been a moment for a retake. And the fact that it wasn't tends to make you think we're made to think there's something under that.
Yeah, Stephen O'Neill here. So I've David Harding in Toronto, Stephen O'Neill Wigan. I mean, you know, hello. So David Harding, you just feel envy. Last Doctor Who story to feature the classic time tunnel sequence and use the classic Delia Derbyshire title music, which I prefer over the following title music. And now, don't start John Daly. That's for Deep Dive season 18 because he'll freak. But yeah, I know what you mean. For everyone saying Peter Howell's music was whatever, there are other people. It's what is Doctor Who trying to do? And in the end, this tunnel sequence, yes, it was when I was a younger kid, but I thought I could see different shapes and monsters in that tunnel sequence, but it wasn't literal. And so my imagination was playing. And I think Doctor Who needs a scream effect. But yes, I mean, yeah.
I think you're right, Brent. I think for me that the tunnel sequence is iconic for Doctor Who. It's number one, really. You know, when fans think of things, they see that. Me personally, I've always loved the Fifth Doctor intro, you know, with the title sequence, because that's my period. You know, I like the guitar. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But like the news, they used to have the news like that.
Yeah. But I mean, it's wonderful, isn't it? There's nothing. I don't think there's anything better than you see this title sequence, and you're like, right, we're off at the races. You know, let's go. We got another story on the go. Mm-hmm. Wonderful stuff. I love it.
Just a segue, Brenda. Just and you can try this. Talk about Doctor Who title sequences. The tunnel is iconic, no doubt about it. Is the go-to sequence for Doctor Who. However, before that, we had the Pertwee sequence for 4 years. And I discovered when I was a child, you could recreate your face as it appears Pertwee style in John Pertwee's first 4 years if you look into a puddle. And your face comes together the same way Pertwee's does in that. Go and try it. It's true.
Yeah.
You've given garbage ideas now. You do realise that.
No. Can I just say no? Because remember, in New Who we had that puddle, and it was a lesbian woman, wasn't it? Remember?
It was.
No.
Name subtly past. This is Joe Pertwee. You two can recreate the Pertwee title sequence by looking into a puddle, splashing your boot in, and then let your face come together again, a la Pertwee 1970 style.
Don't do that because you'll be arrested, because it is actually
New
Who. The Oracle.
No lesbians were hurt in this.
My only issue with Nimon is the ending lets it down, but I can definitely rewatch, especially for Lalla Ward's performance. Yeah, she did. I mean, they were still getting on this series, which helped a bit. We've reviewed State of Decay, and of course they were not talking then. But actually, it didn't show in the performance. I didn't think it showed in the performance at all. Yeah, there's always. I have to say, this series struggled a little bit with the machinery. Everything looked a little bit, I don't know, a bit tighter. It doesn't change my love of it, but it's just it wasn't
Yeah.
as distinctive.
It
And I
looks
just think,
cheap. There's no getting away from it. It looks cheap.
yeah, I think that's the problem. Paris maybe done on a nice budget. The great sets in City of Death. Destiny of Daleks, less so, but it was cleverly done with whatever it was about. Creature from the Pit, great set. Nightmare of Eden, there was some elements of good set. It's now hitting lighting. It's the perennial problem with Doctor Who. What's the greatest monster in Doctor Who history? It's the lighting manager. That's who it is. Yeah, I think this story started. There's two components to it I liked. I liked the labyrinth element when you didn't know what was going on. That bit, of course, the mystery bit that Doctor Who always needs. And then I also liked that other bit, when they had that pod. It was a bit like the Mordrin Undead pod. And another Nimon comes out. I mean, I like my multiples. apart from Karen. Links, I'm happy with one links, that's because it's very, but when you saw there were a few Nimon getting out, that actually had a bit of edge to it, because Lalla Ward, Romana was in a, it was tricky. But then
I think you're right, and I think I agree with you on that. And I think it goes back to what John said. If it had been helmets, it would have been much better, because I think from a production point of view, they would have said, if we had more time, maybe we just get rid of the helmets and have something else. Like, I always think about, you can't do it quite the same, but that wonderful reveal with Sutek, I just think that you could have had more scares if they'd done it a different way, because this does look, you can't get away from it. It looks pantomime, doesn't it?
But I know, but I think the head, like I'm going to go back to Ark in Space, and I'm going to think the Rurin was an interesting design. I liked the sound effect of it, the scuttling. Now with the Nimon, I think actually that mask is fine, and actually the costume to a degree, and the high heels platforms were in. You see, no, but all that's okay. But if they had a different sound effect, they have a good voice. If it maybe scuttled or something insect-like. I know he's not an insect, but just something.
I think the voices were perfect, and not only the voice, the big booming voice, but there's an added effect behind the voice, which really, it really is quite effective. And what makes it different from the Mandrels, which we just said the same, the Mandrels don't have a voice at all, whereas these are intelligent beings. The Mandrels are just bodies which eventually become drugs. So the Nimon are quite devious. They have a plan. They are parasites. So there's a good bit of history there as well. Plus, it's also interesting to look back on it, and you see all the references to ancient Greek mythology. Skonos is Knossos, Solid is Daedalus, Krinoth is Corinth. There's all the links there for kids to go and make connections. It's good.
Yeah. May I just say though, as a 57-year-old, I do actually look at the Nimon now, and I wonder if they came out with a video, an exercise package and a diet package, because they have good waists actually. The Nimon. Or maybe I need to get a bigger head. Shut up. And it'll make me look thinner.
Going back to what I said a few minutes ago, it's probably the one monster that you don't want them to turn around and bend over, to be honest with you.
Honestly, I think John needs to be. I think John, honestly, your hormones are bouncing here.
Yeah.
Wait, they're sexy. I don't know why. They have little waist, broad shoulders, big heads. I won't say more than that.
I'm surprised they didn't turn up in a Shooty episode, to be honest with you.
I'm trying to think.
He gives me the horn. Yeah.
I'm trying to think what dating websites John might be on where you're looking for Smurf.
I dabble, mate.
You dabble. I mean, honestly, I want a Smurf woman.
Look, I will agree with you. Never did I think in my life that I'd be saying about, I could almost see up the Nimon's arse. I never thought I'd be saying that on a live show, but here I am. I've done it. I'll live with that.
Yeah. You're a version of dodgy clickbait, you tonight. Honestly,
yeah, that will get you 10,000 views.
Yeah. John comes on my stream and talks about fancying Smurf women and looking up the Nimon's backside. Honestly, what is this? I'm just the I'm the end of peer stream, obviously.
This is the one time where I'm telling people don't share the video.
Yeah, please don't share unless
Your
you're going to
secret is
send it.
safe with us. Nobody will tell us. Nobody's going to tell.
But you see, it did have all the ingredients. I mean, this is very like Planet of the Spiders and Ark in Space, when you realise they had been digested and all the rest of it. You know, it had all the same elements, but maybe not the writing quality.
Yeah,
I think that's fairly well. I think that's fairly well recognised. Yeah, it's not. Of course, it's not. But the problem, the thing that Haunted Nana's got going on with it, it looks cheap. It looks what it is. It's fag end of the season. There's not much budget. What budget they have left, they're saving for what didn't come next. But the point still remains, and John made it earlier when he was trying to hide his sexual proclivities from us. Good stories don't rely on big budgets. And I will return to this again and again, in the same way I will not return to anything we've just seen ever again, purely because this does entertain me, because it's good stories, good jeopardy, decent enough cliffhangers, and great performances.
And the Nimon cousins to the Sontarans, because honestly, that spaceship, you do start to think, well, you know, or did Mordrin Undead have a kind of deal with them? Now, I've got to mention this because Paul Richards, and if somebody else has mentioned it, maybe Paul Richards twice, Janet Ellis, spoke about Doctor Who not acknowledging its adult audience too much, and that was bang on. I didn't know she said that. I'm interested in that because that's very interesting. You know, Peter Purvis will say certain things and go, you know, it's out of order what they did with this. And sometimes I like some of the actors who've been in Doctor Who actually break from the mold and actually just say what they think. Good on Janet Ellis. If that's what she said, too right. Because it was always meant to be the bridge from grandstand to jukebox jury. It wasn't meant just to be for the jukebox jury kids. It was meant to be for everyone. And I think that's what RTD's forgotten. And I'm sorry, I mentioned it earlier in my little news bite, but, you know, they're doing the CBeebies Doctor Who. No, the Star Trek animated series actually was pitched higher. I don't think we should be pitching just at 4-year-olds exclusively. I think you've lost the argument when you start to do stuff like that.
Well, I mean, even when you take away their agenda and stuff, you know, and what they've had the last few years, the critical point is you make the primary show good, then you talk about spin-offs. You know, it's cart before the horse with that lot, isn't it? Whereas this lot didn't have enough time to think of spin-offs, and they didn't have budgets to talk about spin-offs. But you can guarantee if they were told, we want you to do a spin-off, they would be working to make the prime show good before they even considered jumping into that. And we got one a few years later, didn't we?
I think the point to make with Graham Williams, Philip Hinchcliffe, and a lot of them really, John Nathan Turner, is they're fighting to keep Doctor Who going. And the last thing they want to do is cheapen it, take the mick out of it, take their eye off the ball. I think the problem with the present iteration is they've got everything. It's like the kid who gets everything for Christmas. They've got everything. They've not even had to work hard for it. And then they've messed it up and they've wasted it. Whereas Graham Williams, he knows Mary Whitehouse is about and got rid of the other person. The BBC aren't in love with Doctor Who, and they're all slightly tense and trying to keep this blooming...
You also have to remember that these were BBC employees. They were not fans. They were people who knew their skill, how to produce a programme within a given budget year after year after year after year. And they also knew who they were aiming at Doctor Who. The Doctor was aimed at that transitionary audience between the end of the sport and the beginning of the evening programmes. The problem nowadays with what's happening is that we had a Whoniverse, we had the ambition before we had anything there to justify there being a Whoniverse. There was a whole lot of ego and ambition from Russell Davies and what he wanted. And you're quite right, John, when you say he did not put the thought into the main show. Had he done that, he would have grown from that. What these people were doing, Ten Sticks said this himself when producing Doctor Who, is they worked hard to prevent there being a test card going out on Saturday nights. It wasn't about getting a message. It wasn't about building an empire. It wasn't about building the future for themselves as people. It was about just producing a show which would appeal to the entire family. I don't even know, the point with this current iteration of Doctor Who is, I don't know who it's for.
Yes, 100%. And I think also, just to add to what you said there, I think also with the production side of it, these people were doing it on a shoestring and they were doing the practical stuff. I don't criticize the production team of New Who, because they could work magic as well, but I think there was a laziness from the writers and certainly the producers to go, let's not do a location shoot, or let's not build a set. Let's just do a green screen
Because
episode again.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's lazy. It's
Yeah.
saving themselves time, not pushing for the best quality, in my opinion.
I think the best thing I think a lot of our threaders are on point here. Graham, for example, I think the Williams era is tremendously ambitious and entertaining and quite unique in lots of ways, and it's 100% Comfort Who for me. And that's the point. They're stretching themselves. They really are trying to stretch themselves. Budget, ideas, the lot. And you know what? I think New Who has played within its skills. It's never stretched itself. It's just it's been comfortable. It might be comfortable watching season 17, comfortable Doctor Who, but the comfortable, safe, easy writing that they do now is not what we want. It's the wrong way around. They're not working hard enough for our view. That's what's going on here. Now, just before I ask John about what he's up to, a bit earlier, I couldn't help myself. As John Daly said, I'm insatiable. But of course, was it big news, or did I just want to put my spin on it that basically the BBC are going through the wilderness years and they just want to fill a space, and they've learnt, John Daly, haven't they? Don't say it's cancelled, just say that they like it and the fans will be apparently happy.
Yeah,
That's what's going on.
I'm not seeing your show yet, Brendan, but I will always like your little news bites and I will watch it later. However, what I glean from what I've read about this is I refer everybody back to the BBC of the 1989-90 when they said, well, Doctor's taking a little pause so that we can refresh it to take it beyond and through the 90s. Yeah, so they were.
Yeah, and they will have learned from that even more, which is just don't say the word cancelled and don't say anything like that. And the Doctor Who fans, you buy another day.
And you know, Brendan, unlike last time, this time I couldn't care less.
Yeah,
I know.
In fact, I'm actually glad that they're not saying cancelled, because if they said cancelled, we'd have a terrible music, video with Shooty Gatwa involved with it. So small mercies and all that.
Lots of everybody bouncing around being non-binary all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, tomorrow, 1 p.m, I'm live with the Aussies, Doctor Who Detox Hour. And this one, I mean, people have been conflicted by this because we've rejigged a bit of the Doctor Who Detox Hour, and we're going to do a roasting of the Robots of Death. And everyone's going, how can you roast Robots of Death? Well, the point is, we're picking the classics to actually take the P. That's what we're doing. I mean, it's a classic, of course it is. Planet of the Daleks, should it go in the Zero Room? Because there's an argument between the panel. 1 or 2 hate it. Well, you all know I love it. So, of course, there's going to be a fight, a stoush. So, basically, you've got... there's a fight about Planet of the Daleks, and we're going to roast Robots of Death, and we're going to just catch up with the Aussies. So, that's tomorrow at 1 p.m. live. This was live earlier, and this was live now, season 17. So, before I just go to John about what his channel's doing, do write to us on Gmail and do tell us what do you want us to do a deep dive of next. We've done 12, 13, 17. Do we just do Tom Baker? I mean, this is what I mean. Do we do, so please write to us. Now, John, Sci-Fi Chronicles 79, what are you up to?
Thank you, my friend. So tonight I'm starting at 1 a.m. I am starting my very first Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. watch party. So that is us just there watching the episode in Discord and then commenting along all together in the chat. So, I will be caffeined up to the hilt for that one. And then Sundays, we're still doing our Stargate SG-1 watch alongs on a Sunday evening at a more reasonable time for me. So that's at 8:30. So, if you like that, come along, say hello. But I also just wanted to say this wonderful chat here if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel, because Brendan really does put a lot of work into these shows. He loves doing them, but he puts a lot of graft in. So please do. And as Brendan said earlier, please like and subscribe to on Garbage's channel as well, because he's putting out some fun stuff at the moment as well. But
yeah.
Other than that, I've loved it tonight, guys. I mean, it's a joy being with you two on a show anyway, but talking about a wonderful season of Doctor Who, it just tops it off, doesn't it? Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to make sure I don't cause a fight, which is David Harding is going. This is what a few people have said. They've not understood. A roast is where you just take the pee, isn't it? That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's just for comedy reasons. We wanted the Aussies want this. They want a bit of comedy. You know, it's all a bit dry. There's many reviews out there. We've done Robots of Death. The point is, we want to just give it. We can appreciate Robots of Death. I adore Robots of Death. I mean, who doesn't? The point is, we're going to take the pee out of the little things. I mean, I'm sorry, David Harding. The feet, those shoes. Hello, excuse me.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of
Well, and also, if you think about it, the corpse markers, they clearly gone round and they've nicked the reflectors off people's bikes at the time.
Yeah.
So they're not only killing people, they're vandalizing their bicycles
exactly.
as well.
And who would do that to their rally chopper or, grifter? No way. And John, of course, good to see you again, because you're back doing your work. So, of course, he's hard to get, is John, but he's got always good value when he's on. Good to see you again, John, in good form.
Advertise my channel, if I may. At 1 o'clock this morning, I'll be live streaming Snoring with me and a Spaniel.
I didn't know what he was going
to tune in for that. Feel free.
I was
got 50,000 views already on that one.
Yeah.
I was thinking, have you got some?
There's me, a couple of Spaniels, my husband. Well, it's all great. You'll love it. It's great. It's just
when you were talking about your channel and streaming, I thought, has he got a squiffy stomach? What's he talking about?
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's another thing I'll do 1 o'clock, another morning.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it post watershed or?
No, that's you get that.
Yes, you'll find those three can't stream all day or night. It makes you dehydrated. Anyway, goodbye, everybody. Bye.
Take care.
Love being with you again. Cheers, Brendan.